Hey there guys, this is Professor Tabo, obviously, and you can see what a really lo-fi video setup looks like. Usually I try to get the lighting and the audio and the editing and all that stuff a little bit nicer than what you're going to see here, but it'll get the point across. So first of all, let me thank you for your patience tonight. You were all very charitable in this experience, dealing with not only the scheduling for the meeting, but then all of the tech fun too. And having a sense of humor and an intrepid spirit is a big part of why I know you guys are going to do so great at this job. And I'm really looking forward to your help this summer. And that actually brings us to the second thing, which is I definitely want to thank each of you for agreeing to help me out. I'm very excited about working with you guys. I know that each of you are going to be great at this. And as I think that I've described to you in individual conversations and in some cases before you agreed to the job, primarily what I'm going to be asking for your help with this summer is the Prep for Law Pre-1L summer program. I may on occasion ask for bits and pieces of help with my other duties. Prep for Law, and as much as I love the course, is kind of only a tiny part of my summer as far as work's concerned. But it is definitely the area where I can most benefit from your help and where I think you guys will have the most fun too. So what I'm going to do in this video is give you a very general overview of Prep for Law, what the program is. I mean, you have picked up on some sense of it, but to give you an overview, and then also give you an overview of what you can expect in terms of your duties and, ooh, sorry, that's one of the problems with doing these screencasts that I usually have to edit out. Like I said, this is pretty informal. And then I'm gonna, like I said, I'll run through sort of what the your weekly duties would be like, and we'll go from there. And of course, if you have any questions in response to anything we go over in this video, we can definitely touch base on that in just a bit. So, if you visited the Center for Legal Pedagogy's website and actually looked at the Prep for Law page in the main menu, you will have nothing else. If nothing else, you'll have read sort of a formal, official description of what the program is, and seen some of the nifty little slideshows and promotional material, so share with students that we're trying to recruit into the program. And this, of course, is also where, like I said, you get a very formal description, where the online enrollment form is for students to fill out in order to sign up for the program. And once they fill out the online enrollment form and I get that, then I transfer that information over to one of the IT administrators on the main campus of TSU, who her name is June Claiborne. You will probably have to deal with her a little bit. She's actually a delightful and very helpful person. But because our students in the program are not official TSU students yet, right? They don't have T numbers and things like that, because technically they don't become TSU students until August. There are all sorts of bizarre kind of administrative and technical things we run into. Namely, they can't log into the Blackboard course system in the same way that you guys can, or that other students can. We have to create these sort of fake temporary login credentials for them and enroll them in the course, and a whole slew of stuff that June helps out with. So it's kind of a multi-step enrollment process that the students actually go through. But if you've either participated in the program yourself or you've read this description, you've got some sense of what we mean by a pre-1L summer program. So the Prep for Law program is actually more than 20 years old, close to 25 years old. It's been around for a long time in some form or fashion, but it has certainly evolved a lot over the years, as you might expect. So The program was originally created by my predecessor, the previous head of the Center for Legal Pedagogy, a fellow named Anthony Palisota. And Professor Palisota, who had run the center for all 25 years of its existence prior to me, had started, those many years ago, essentially almost like mostly just a summer reading list for incoming students, right? So this was back before you had even, say, email, much less online courses or anything like that. And it really just started with him compiling a set of readings, essentially in a, printed out, Xeroxed out course reader that he would send to all of the incoming students. And it gradually evolved from there, where he sort of added exercises and activities and things like that for students to do. And it still, for many years, was run all through the U.S. postal mail, believe it or not. So there would be, instructions for written activities, but students would just, via postal mail their work into Professor Palisota, and he and his assistants would take a look at it and then mail feedback back to them. And eventually this, entered the age of twin. And when I took over the program a few years ago, when Professor Palisota had passed away, the state of the program was essentially as a twin course where, the readings, there are texts available. There are texts available online, and there are instructions for activities that students can then submit via Twin Dropbox, right? And that was definitely an improvement over the old-fashioned way, but it was still woefully in need of some updates. So even though a lot of the readings and many of the concepts, certainly a lot of the material is the same now with Prep for Law as it's been in the past, I've really tried very hard to update the program in a way that I think is going to really capitalize on this opportunity. So the whole idea is that we want to prepare our incoming 1L students as best as possible before they arrive on campus for orientation week. We want them to be comfortable with a lot of those basic study skills when it comes to things like time management and organization, productivity, general note-taking, those sorts of things. We also want them to be comfortable with some of those basic skills that you guys may have had to learn pretty quickly on the fly your first few weeks of law school, namely things like case briefing, note-taking that is specific to law school, how to make a good outline, a good law school outline for your courses, those sorts of things. We also work a lot on critical thinking skills and the types of kind of logical reasoning skills that are always going to be required for students, some of those basic writing skills that are going to be required for students. And even if those are things that, aren't kind of formal skills that are required of you, we know that those are exactly the sorts of abilities that serve you best as a law student. So we want to make sure that students have that kind of warmed up before they arrive on campus. The other sort of general area of goals as far as the program is concerned is we really want students from the start to feel a sense of professional identity and a sense of kind of ownership over their own learning. We want you to think of yourselves as legal professionals from the very start. And the reason that we want that sense of identity as professionals and not simply as students is because we know, and we actually do have, some data that supports this, sussed out various ways. We know that students who approach the law school experience as essentially as a professional school experience from the start, they are sort of looking out for themselves in terms of learning a vocation. Those students tend to perform better on average than students whose initial attitude towards law school is much more like you would expect in, say, undergrad or even some graduate programs, where you are you're a student and you may want to be a really good student, but you're primarily thinking not of your future as a lawyer, but you're thinking of what can I do in order to, you know, get the grades I need to get and be a good student. And as you're sort of witnessing and sort of quasi-participating in Prep for Law, you'll get a lot of exposure to this concept. But really, the idea is that if you fundamentally think of yourself as a law student, you often tend to be more passive, right? You know this from your classmates, right? You've observed this even in friends, that if you think of yourself as a student, then you really expect the teacher to give you what you need, and if the teacher doesn't give you what you need, then you feel like you're off the hook, and that's all that matters. And that's obviously a very different mindset than what we want our students to have. So anyway, I won't belabor that too much more, but like I said, the professional identity component is actually pretty key to our goals and purposes with the Prep for Law program. And basically, so as far as the structure of the course is concerned, as you've gathered, now we run Prep for Law as an online course through the Blackboard system. And it is not the same Blackboard interface that you guys may be accustomed to using in some of your your law school courses. There's actually a separate Lexis Blackboard version. So if this looks different to you, that's why. So we run Prep for Law as a course through Blackboard, and what the students experience is, of course, a set of materials, a set of learning modules. My view here is different than everybody else's view, at least a little bit. But the basic idea, of course, is that the students get to see a new module of the course appear every week. And as a part of each of those modules, there are a series of things that the students need to do on their own during the week. And you know, they are in an important sequence. There are a few of these kind of like readings and activities and items in the module that I actually have set up on what's called adaptive release, which means that it only becomes visible, like that item only becomes visible to a given student when they have completed some other task. So I do have, it's not that way with everything, but there are some items that only appear after a particular student has, say, taken a quiz that they were supposed to take or whatever before they move on to the next thing. So it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. Anyway, the stuff that they're going to be doing during the week is a combination of some videos from me, some video clips from elsewhere, excerpts from some of those getting ready for law school books that some of you may be familiar with, and a bunch of quizzes and surveys and all different sorts of things that they might have to watch, read, or do. And the idea is that they will, at their own pace throughout the week, they will work through each of those learning modules. But then each week on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Central Time, we hold a virtual class session. And you guys got a sense of sort of what at least virtual class sessions could look like. Ours didn't work tonight, but you know at least what I'm talking about when I say virtual class session. And Ricky Pendel, one of you wonderful fellows, was an active participant in Prep for Law last summer, so Ricky knows what it looks like actually in one of these sessions. It's just like a Skype session, except all of the students and everyone, you know, there's multiple parties, and so we all get to see each other and hear each other and all that good stuff and interact in a real-time way. But at those virtual class sessions, there's going to be some amount of review of whatever material that the students were supposed to be sort of covering in the module that week. I'm trying really hard to minimize the amount of time that I spend reviewing. I found last year I ended up, even though I would tell myself it was only going to be like a few minutes of review, I would end up using like, like 3 or 4 times the time I allotted, like it would be 30-40 minutes later, and I would realize I was still reviewing. I'm trying to adjust that this summer and be a little bit better about doing some quick review, answering any direct questions that students might have, but then really focusing on essentially doing a workshop session where there is some task that students are going to be asked to do while they're actually logged into the virtual class meeting. And they can turn off the video view, kind of like what I'm doing with the webcast now, where I didn't want you guys staring at me the whole time. I'd rather you stare at a boring screen than than stare at me. But students can, they can turn off the audio and the video, and I can, so they're not sort of performing for all of their peers. But they can then just be sitting at their desks or wherever they are and working on a particular assignment. And one of the good things about having them work on the assignment while we're in those class sessions is if they have any questions that come up, they can actually ask those questions. There will be a lot of things that I will show them how to do, and then they have to do it themselves, right? And it's very good for that because we can kind of go through it step by step, where I show them a little bit and then they take a few minutes and do it. And then I show them a little bit more and then they take a few minutes to do it. And so the hope is that students will be, doing a lot of concrete work during those class sessions. And typically at the end of every class session, there will be sort of some work product that the students created, whether it's a written assignment that they've just completed, a sample personal statement or something like that, or whether it's additions to their online portfolios, which I'll talk about in a moment. But in any case, there's always going to be, something they've done during the Saturday sessions. And one of the things that I will have you guys help me out with is you're going to be helping me to provide the students with some feedback about their work. Of course, none of this is, graded or scored in some formal way. It's a completely elective program. But we do want students to, sort of know how they're doing with some of these skills. So I will, and I'll talk about this more in a moment, I'm going to provide you guys with a lot of guidance for how you're going to generate that feedback for students, but you're going to be helping me out by sort of looking at the work that they've done. But they're going to do that primarily during those Saturday class meetings. And the big thing, I think, that I'm perhaps proudest of and certainly most excited about when it comes to my updated version of Prep for Law versus the old school way, is having students create, during the course of the summer program, online portfolios, their own personal websites that they are creating step by step throughout the summer with the program that will serve them well, I hope, not only as they head into the fall semester of their 1L year, but will actually also benefit them throughout law school and after graduation as well. So the online portfolios are, in many respects, a sort of novel, revolutionary sort of way to teach some of these things and get some of these messages across, but I'm actually super excited about it. So in the past, I asked students to use Google Sites to create their personal websites, their personal portfolios. Sorry, you guys can probably hear my dog just shaking his head in the background. So I previously had used Google Sites as a way for students to build their online portfolios. And Google Sites is essentially, anybody can use it for a variety of purposes, but it's a very, very basic web design, web development tool that is available for free from Google. And if you want to check it out, you can actually go to sites.google.com and see what it looks like. Google Sites is really great, and I don't want to badmouth it, but I live in fear that Google Sites will be terminated, that the program will be terminated. If you guys use a lot of Google products or have for years, you know that Google does like get rid of some programs. And they introduce new things like Google Plus or whatever. And so I'm always afraid that they're going to decide to phase out Google Sites, and that that all the work that a student did will no longer be available to them. There are also a few technical limitations to Google Sites that I won't bother getting into, but there are some limitations to the web design that I'm not so super stoked about. But it's not a bad tool. And it makes it very easy to show students how to build the portfolios that we want. What I've decided to try doing this summer, and God help me, it really is trying, because it's not a one-to-one correspondence, is I'm trying to get students to use WordPress instead of Google Sites. You guys may be aware of this, but WordPress in its various free or paid iterations is, arguably the most widespread web design tool, from a bunch of, free little personal blogs to even companies like the New York Times host their or design their sites on the WordPress interface. And, I do a lot of professional writing, or write for a number of online magazines and stuff, and we use WordPress for all of that. I use WordPress for the Center for Legal Pedagogy's website, which I do all myself, and WordPress is a very easy to use interface, even though it's not quite as simple and intuitive as Google Sites is. I think it's still going to be pretty good. And the main reason that I'm trying to switch students over to that is because I know that WordPress isn't going to go away. And so I don't have that same kind of fear that the work that they're doing is going to disappear. The other thing is that, it's easily convertible if they want to later on make it into a professional site. So if they want to buy their own domain name, if they want, there are lots of things that they can do to kind of upgrade without having to completely redo things. Arguably, knowing basic web design is just as important of a skill for particularly solo practitioners and small firm lawyers as any number of other business management things are, because you're probably just going to be building and maintaining your own web presence, and you kind of have to do that. But anyway, skipping over all of that, the students, what I more or less ask the students to do throughout the course, because we do it bit by bit by bit, is they have a personalized web page. I try to get them to use their name or something as close to their name as possible. I happen to own tamaratabo.com, so I practice what I preach. But they'll gradually be doing things like adding a calendar that has their study plan in it. They will, let's see. They create sort of you can see this was my old Google Sites one, sort of mock site. They create separate pages and sub-pages for all of their notes and outlines, and they sort of accumulate study tools, templates and models, have them upload things like, case brief templates and things like that. And essentially it becomes a way for them to organize a lot of their study tools. And it's just that they're going to have it all in, everything available in one place, right? That's part of what makes it especially useful. And it also just forces them to be thinking in terms of all those elements and that kind of organization. And then the other thing, and this is part of also the purpose of the portfolios, is the students will be adding, for example, their resume. They'll be adding writing samples, kind of a brief bio, some things that will help them with potential employers, right? So they're going to have all of this stuff on a web page that is called, tamaratabo.com. And so when, December rolls around and they're starting to maybe apply for some summer jobs, they're starting to apply for outside scholarships and things like that, they will, in addition to any written application materials they might have, they will have a website that they can put on put on applications, put on business cards, tell employers to go and get this information about me. And it's kind of like in that sense, it's almost like a glorified LinkedIn profile, where it's just a good professional presence online. If people Google your name, this is what they'll find above all of the sketchy search results for, Instagram photos and stuff. And it becomes something that you can develop as time goes on. You can update your resume, you can, add more writing samples after, lawyering process and after appellate lit or after a summer job where you, write a really good motion or a really good bench memo or something. And the whole idea is that even though we would expect students to make lots of changes over the course of the next few years, the hard work is already done, right? The site is already built, and making those little changes, might take you a few minutes, but the framework is already there. And it's a really great way. I mean, you can put videos on it, you can do all sorts of neat stuff. It is a great professional development tool, as well as, like I said, that collection of study tools for the students too. And the idea, and this was true on Google Sites, but it'll also be true with the WordPress versions that I'm trying to have folks do this year, that the website is registered to them individually, right? It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to, Thurgood Marshall or TSU. It belongs to the student. So even though we'll ask them throughout the summer to send us a link to something that they added to their site because it was an assignment in prep for law, and that's what we're looking for. After the program is done, after the summer program's done, the website's theirs. I mean, they can delete it completely. They can they can update it however they like, even in non-standard ways. They can convert it into a personal website. They can change the security settings, whatever they want. But it's something that they get to actually take away. And I really like that idea, that it's not something that they're doing that is connected to the school. And this is actually was really important to me because one of the options in Blackboard is you can actually you can build portfolios, student portfolios in the Blackboard course interface. But the kind of crappy thing about it when you do that is it's stuck in Blackboard, right? So it's not something that students are building for themselves as individuals. It's just completing homework that they won't have access to later. Anyway, so that is a lot of the rationale behind these portfolios that I'll have the students doing. And like I said, a lot of the work that they do throughout the program will be essentially will take the form of additions to their portfolio. So they'll be working on like I said, their personal statement. And yes, we're going to talk about what should be a part, what goals they should be setting for themselves, and what they should be putting into a personal statement. But they're going to put it on the portfolio site, and that's this sort of the key piece. We'll be grading things, if you will, from off of their sites for the most part. So back to that big question about what it is that you guys are going to be helping me out with as far as this summer program is concerned, and what roughly your duties are going to be, how you contribute to it, and also an idea of what your kind of weekly routine is going to be. So let's take a look at that. I know I've been talking for a long time. So, of course, there are 4 of you who are going to be splitting up the various responsibilities this summer. So I hope that the the workload will be manageable for each of you while you're still, handling your other stuff, summer work and personal stuff and all that good stuff. I estimate my goal is that none of you will spend more than 10 to 20 hours per week, but I tend to think that most of the time it's going to be much closer to 10 than to 20. And as you'll notice when we go through this stuff, even though you might have work to do during the course of the week, there tends to be a lot of flexibility about when you do this stuff. And most of it, well, in fact, all of it can be done electronically, can be done remotely. You can do it at 3 in the morning, sitting at home on your couch in your jammies, and that's okay. So there are a few things that you'll see that there are deadlines for, but it's a pretty flexible gig. So the big things that I'm going to ask you guys to help me out with are, for one thing, I'm hoping that you will attend at least some of the virtual class meetings on Saturdays. Now, as I think I've talked with a couple of you about this, there was originally supposed to be a second program, very similar to the Prep for Law program, based on the Prep for Law program, that was called Path to Law, which was a conditional admissions program and an alternative admissions program. This was supposed to happen in the spring. It didn't, for no reason. Nothing related to me. All administration stuff and faculty stuff and big picture law school stuff. And then I was told that it was supposed to begin, that we were moving forward with it, but it was going to begin in May. And that did not happen either. And I am still waiting to see whether that happens. Like I said, everything's ready on my end. The question is just other stuff. So even though there may be a second program that pops up that kind of complicates things a little bit, my plan, and if that's the case, I'll divide things up accordingly, and we'll change the workload. But for right now, since there's just the Prep for Law program, all of the prep stuff will apply to you guys each equally. And basically what you're going to be doing when you do attend the Saturday class meetings is you're going to be helping with exactly the sort of thing that we all just experienced. There are always going to be some tech problems and login problems and last minute questions and things like that. And that's something that it's really helpful for students to be able to, send you an email or something like that. If you like, even if you're comfortable providing your phone number, text number or whatever. Having a contact person who can help students with that, so that in some cases I can kind of keep going if there are just a few students who are having problems, and you can help answer those questions, be sort of a second representative for me. The other thing is keeping track of student participation, essentially making sure or checking to see who showed up, and then you're going to help me proctor the completion of the assignments. This was more important for the Path to Law program because a lot of the assignments are much more like sort of traditional assignments where the students are kind of getting like a formal score, like they're doing questions. As opposed to the Prep for Law stuff, it's a lot more subjective, creative work and whatever. But still, having you kind of hanging around in front of your computer while the students are working to help me field some of that. And then also following up with the people who don't, in your group, who don't come. And we'll talk about the groups in a minute. And then also, in addition to showing up at the virtual class meetings, I'm hoping that you will each week be able to attend a brief, 15 to 30 minute staff meeting immediately before or after the class meeting. I think with Prep for Law, we'll do it at like 12:15. So the class runs roughly from from 11 to noon, and then after a brief bathroom break or whatever, we'll convene and have our little staff meeting, essentially for me to touch base with you about the grading and the feedback on the assignments that you're going to be giving to students during the course of the week. So for most of the assignments that you're going to be helping give feedback for, I will provide you with a like a checklist or a scoring rubric, very informal, basic scoring rubric, and we'll go over that together so that you're comfortable with what it is that you're supposed to be looking for and giving feedback for. It will be pretty much just that. It'll be, again, I have to keep laughing because there's all these things the way they're supposed to be, but tonight's experience doesn't bode well. The staff meetings, those short little staff meetings, will be either through the Blackboard Collaborate video meetings, or you can also call in on that conference number as well. So we'll do it virtually. You don't have to show up anywhere. And with the virtual class meetings, I would, if possible, I would like everyone, all 4 of you, to show up this Saturday at 11 a.m. Log in for that class, since it's the first video class that the students will have this summer. But in the future, I'm not super particular about all of you being present at every Saturday class. I would always like for there to be at least one of you present at any class, and you are all welcome to attend as many of the classes as you can manage. So if you guys, and it really is just up to you, if you guys want among the 4 of you to work out like a rotation schedule or something, so that or block scheduling, whatever works for the 4 of you. You don't all have to be present at the same time, but I do need one of you, at least one of you, there in any given week. So you guys can talk about what might work for you if you don't think you're going to be able to attend every Saturday session. And as far as those little staff meetings, even if you didn't attend the session, you didn't participate in the class, and you didn't log in via video, it would still be, I think, really helpful, if possible, for us to, even if everybody else is calling in using that, using the phone conference option, to have at 12:15 on Saturdays, to have that quick little review of what you're about to do for the week. Let me know if 12:15 on Saturdays will never work for you, and we'll find another. We'll just find another 30-minute span during the weekend that we can all get together virtually. And then, of course, as we've been talking about, I'm going to ask you to assist with some of that scoring or the feedback, and I'll make sure that you know exactly what you're supposed to be looking for. You will each be assigned a small group of students, so you won't be seeing a random smattering each time you grade something. You will have like a cohort of students who are your students for the duration of the summer. And you will be following up with them and interacting with them and providing them with feedback as that same small group throughout the summer. And that also means you'll kind of get to know some of the students too, and they're going to be, your 1L classmates come August. So I think that's kind of a nice piece of it too. But I do ask, it shouldn't, the feedback really should not take a long time. No more than a few hours for the entire batch, and this really is the big thing that you do. But I do ask that you provide the students with the feedback by the following Wednesday night. So they are going to, on Saturday afternoon, post their work, and then anytime between Saturday and Wednesday night, you can score it or look at it for feedback purposes, and then send them the feedback. And then I ask you whether either that Wednesday night or Thursday to just share with me the results. You can even just, we'll talk about it with certain particular assignments, but just send me an Excel spreadsheet with the scores or things like that. And then also I will ask you to sort of be an ongoing point of contact, an additional ongoing point of contact for the students. So they will, I get lots of questions, some of them very, very general, and I think it would be helpful for me. I get swamped in email from prep students, and I think it would be great for them to be able to kind of talk with you as individual students. And some of it maybe just be really repetitive, kind of administrative questions, and some of it may be, I mean, you guys know this. There's all sorts of stuff that freaks you out when you first come to, not only come to law school, but just come to Thurgood, right? Like there's all sorts of questions about when you find your schedule and all those sorts of things, and you know the answers to that. I mean, a lot of times it's just wait. But being able to tell students as a student the answer to those sorts of things, I think would be helpful. Then again, you may not get anybody. Okay, so and a few sort of secondary duties. Again, I am going to be getting this. This happens every summer. We continue to admit students, of course, throughout the summer. So even though the Prep for Law program has technically already begun, we will be adding additional participants in the program throughout the summer. And we get those students from the Office of Admissions. The Office of Admissions, either Dean Renee or Ken Moore, the Assistant Director for Admissions, will send me an updated spreadsheet with all of the new names of students who have paid at least their first seat confirmation deposit. And that is what makes them eligible to participate in Prep for Laws. They have to at least forked over that much cash. And so we get these, they're constantly adding students. We're constantly getting those folks. And we have to take that information, reach out to them about Prep for Law, then, get those temporary Blackboard login credentials for them, and then get them enrolled in the course. And there's a bunch of like little administrative steps in there that that don't necessarily take up a whole lot of time, but are ongoing. So I may be asking you in the future to help me out with a few of those types of tasks. I am doing, and I'm redoing a lot of the things that I've done in the past. I'm doing a bunch of videos each week for students, both for the sort of general course materials, and in some cases videos for students who might have missed one of the virtual classes. And there may be times that I would really love your help with a little bit of video production. I don't expect you guys to know stuff like that, so if I do ask for help, it'll be pretty low-key. Blah, 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 blah. So, a basic outline of a typical week for you guys during this summer is starting on a Friday. What you would do on sometime between, Thursday night, midnight, and 6 p.m. or so on Friday evening is I'm going to ask you all to send out to your small group of students a reminder email about attending Saturday's class session. Now, you can do this any number of ways. I'm going to provide you with a list of students and their email addresses. You can also message them through the Blackboard system. And you can either send it out as an announcement, like right now you guys are going to have, about a dozen students apiece. You can either send out like just one obvious mass message to everyone, or if you want to try to kind of cut and paste things and make individual messages seem personalized, that's fine too. But you're not just simply like giving them an announcement about the Saturday sessions, you're touching base with them. So, I'm pretty comfortable with different kinds of language that you might use. There's nothing formal I need you to say, but basically say, hey, I'm just checking in. Hope the week has gone well. I just wanted to see whether you were planning on attending the Saturday class for Prep for Law this week. Remember, it's Saturdays at 11 a.m. And by checking in with them that way each week, you're not only kind of nudging them to participate on Saturdays, it is that reminder, but it also makes the whole experience a little bit more personalized. They can't fall too far behind because there's someone checking in with them each week. There are always a lot of students who start off pretty gung-ho and then end up trailing off. And so this is one of the many things I'm trying to put into place that will help to keep students engaged throughout the summer. So on Fridays, you'll send out that reminder message. You can, again, for efficiency's sake, create a message that you pretty much copy and paste all the time, right? So you're not reinventing the wheel each time, but you'll send out a reminder message. And then on Saturdays, remember, you'll attend the virtual class meeting at 11. Oops, little typo there. If possible. And remember, if you guys want to work out a rotation system with yourself, that's fine. And then, of course, that staff meeting on Saturdays, unless there's a better time for you guys. And then Saturday through Wednesday, so after class on Saturday, starting Saturday afternoon through Wednesday night at midnight, you will, for the most part, just be left to do the for lack of a better term, the grading. You're going to be reviewing the work, the assignments from your small group of students and scoring the work or providing feedback according to those rubrics and checklists and things that I give to you. And then you're going to be, emailing the feedback back to the students. And that is in addition to just being, again, that point of contact, maybe answer a question here or there via email. That is what you're going to be doing each week. And for the most part, that's the deal. So obviously, if you have questions about the program or about what I'm going to be asking you guys to do, please send me an email or whatever, let me know. And we can certainly talk more about this stuff in the future. So I am going to make sure that you each get your sort of preliminary list of the students in your small group so that starting tomorrow you can send them a very brief reminder message about this Saturday. I'd like you to start that this week. And particularly since this is the first weekly message that they'll be receiving from you, you'll want to introduce yourself to the students. You can, they're enrolled. I won't give you their email if they, if they're not enrolled, but just, introduce yourself as, a pedagogy fellow, teaching assistant for Prep for Law, what year you are in school, that you are a law student at Thurgood Marshall, that you're going to be helping out with the course. If you want to give them just a couple of biographical bits about you, you're welcome to, but you don't have to if you don't want to, and then give them the reminder. So it's going to be pretty simple. Keep sending out the reminders each week, but start tomorrow, Friday, and then on Saturday, this coming Saturday, will be our first Saturday session. I am going to play around with some of the tech side stuff just a bit more. I encourage each of you to do it too, because as you've seen, a lot of this stuff is very particular to what computer device you're using. So my tech problems are not necessarily your tech problems. I don't think anything in the course is actually messed up. I think it's just the difficulties of logging in the first time. So I can tell you from past experience, having tech problems is very, very common with Blackboard, and once you kind of get it down, it's usually pretty fine. So anyway, give yourself some time to play around with that stuff. There are also, and this is something that the students have in one of their modules, Vanessa Ramirez, who was one of my fellows last summer, who is particularly tech savvy, created a document that is, tech advice for virtual class meetings that is listed in the students' Module 1, or I think it's Module 1. Either Module 1 or Module 2, whatever's open to them. It's in one of the two that's open to them now. And not only, share that with students, but look at it for yourself, because it actually does provide some nice guidance. And if you have any questions about that, or if you're not able to work that out, let me know. We can always do some diagnostics together. You can always call TSU Tech Support tomorrow during the day if it looks like it might be something that can be solved that way. But then I'd like you to show up on Saturday, and hopefully we'll have some live bodies who are able to get logged in and see some students, and then right afterwards we'll have a little staff meeting about what you're supposed to be working on for the next week. So I think that is everything that I would have covered for the most part, if we've been in a session together. So let me know if you have any questions, and otherwise, without further ado, I will turn off this very, very bad, messy, ugly webcam video. Thanks, guys.